So in this PowerPoint, I'm going to go into the truth behind the Mediterranean diet and kind of focus on what we as a society initially think when we hear the words Mediterranean diet and what it actually looks like in the Mediterranean region. In American society, the term Mediterranean diet has quickly become associated with one of the most healthy diets an American can have. So the reason that this happens is because people lose a lot of weight while taking this diet because there's a very strong amount of red meat that has been cut out of the diet and a very large increase in your fruits, vegetables, carbohydrates, and poultry portion of the meals. So people kind of assume that this is more of a natural diet, like you're more in touch with the natural elements of nature, but this diet in general is loosely misunderstood for what it actually is meant to represent. In 2010, the Mediterranean diet was placed in UNESCO as a list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. So this whole paragraph right here is what they wrote, but I bolded a bunch of the specific things what they think is the Mediterranean diet. So you'll notice that what it talks mostly about is the sharing and consumption of the food, eating together, family values, respect for diversity. And what's interesting is you will not see a single food piece actually placed in here for what the Mediterranean diet is actually meant to be. It is more of a holistic view of the importance of community and sharing mealtime with others. So taking the past two ideas of what UNESCO thinks the Mediterranean diet is and the food portion of the diet that we today in America consider it, you can kind of see that UNESCO really does focus on eating together, community, friendship, family, and it does play a vital role in the cultural landscape of society in these regions. A lot of the times, festivals and celebrations are had with these foods specifically being front and center. What's interesting compared to other diets is the importance of the woman's role in transmitting not only the knowledge but in meal preparation for these regions. They kind of use women to safeguard all of these techniques and pass them down by word of mouth rather than having a cookbook per se of food components. But the food components that we do consider when you hear people say, I'm on the Mediterranean diet, is a combination of the health and taste that these regions do practice, and it involves a lot of fish, vegetables, fruits, low-fat dairy, and wine. What's interesting about wine is this diet does not limit alcohol, but actually encourages you, if you do drink, to drink wine because it has been associated with a reduced risk in heart disease. So this right here is a map of the countries that UNESCO includes in the Mediterranean diet. You'll see we have Croatia, Spain, Greece, Italy, Monaco, Portugal, and Cyprus. So you'll kind of notice the diversity of the location of each of these countries. That's why the diet is so different when you visit each of these places. There are many benefits found with the Mediterranean diet, which is why a lot of physicians and people do follow this diet for a daily meal plan. So one of the main things, as I talked about earlier with the incorporation of wine, is that it does help reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. And so a lot of the other different foods, such as the high amount of seafood, also correlates with the lowering of heart disease. Also, the lower level of low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol found in the gut, is also found in this, which is really good because having a large amount of LDL in the body is bad for tissue damage. Also, there's an increased morality and agility that comes from eating this diet because you are limiting added sugars, which can help decrease both of those. It also helps protect against various diseases that have been done studies on, such as you can see in the last four listed. And this has been a big basis in a lot of studies for patients that are experiencing diseases such as Alzheimer's, that following this diet can help keep not only your brain healthy, but your entire body healthy. There are many nutritional aspects of this diet. Foremost, that it is a primarily plant-based foods diet, kind of back to what I said, that it's an in touch with nature diet. So you're going to be using more herbs and spices rather than salt to season your fish and poultry. Also, you limit a lot of the fats consumed. So trans fats in general will be lowered along with saturated fats because those contribute to heart disease, where a big focus of the Mediterranean diet is helping prevent cardiovascular disease. So rather than using butter, you're going to be using olive oil and more fatty fish that are good for you, such as salmon, because that's very rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Also, you'll notice that you actually have up to 9 servings a day of both fruits and vegetables, which is a super high amount compared to other diets. You're still encouraged to eat grains such as pasta and rice, but another key aspect is not only the food intake, but the agility intake. So they really do encourage about a moderate to moderate high level of exercise. One of the main things that draws people into the diet is how colorful all the food looks on the plate. So here I included some of the key meals eaten around the Mediterranean basin. You'll see you have a Greek salad, a lemon chicken, and a chicken zucchini and artichoke salad. You can find many recipes looking it up online because the prominence of the Mediterranean diet is making its way around the globe. So the reason I'm so passionate about the Mediterranean diet is actually this past spring semester, I spent 6 months in Italy studying abroad, and I was able to notice how unique the Mediterranean diet was in many Mediterranean countries. So in Italy, the version of the Mediterranean diet they focused on was the high grains and carbs. So you notice in all of their menus, they had lots of pasta, lots of pizza, and a lot of these dishes included a lot of vegetables, and they also incorporated limited sugar intake, and the only sugar you would actually see them eating is going to be your gelato. But while I was in Greece, that was completely different. There was a lot of chicken, a lot of vegetables, a lot of spices, which in Italy you wouldn't have as much of that. But then when I traveled to Spain, I noticed a high volume of seafood due to their location, and you would always be finding seafood in their paella, and that was their version of the Mediterranean diet, which was completely different than the other two countries. This kind of goes back to how UNESCO doesn't necessarily focus on the food because it is more about the culture, and I noticed in each of the places it was very family centric. It was very community based when they were eating, so that it was more of the ambiance rather than the food itself. So a big thing I did notice is that this diet can be healthy if you do it right. What my Italian professors told me is that Americans have a super hard time adjusting to the Mediterranean diet initially because we are not used to being able to only eat these types of food. So it does have its good elements, but it has its bad elements if you try and rush into it too quickly.